We are dedicating this talk, this satsang, to this title that I was sent by Sandra speaking me about the Catskill retreat. So, hello to everyone in the retreat. If you are following this in the retreat tomorrow at 6 p.m. and anybody else that will want to follow it, we will do it tomorrow at 12 p.m. New York time, 6 p.m. Madrid time. It's a very interesting subject, the shadow of self, in the sense that it speaks about shadow and it speaks about self. Now, the self could be equated in this sentence to light. So the shadow of light, and if there is light, there is shadow. In other words, it makes reference that the manifested world is a manifestation of polarities. Every virtue is also a defect, and every defect, every failure, every failing of yourself is also a virtue. So a virtue and the failure come together, love and hate come together, fear and bravery come together, day and night, quark up, quark down, everything is manifested in this polarity. So, what is the sense of speaking about the shadow of self? And what do we mean, or what might it be meant by the shadow of self? There's a lot of, organizations there that speak about embracing your shadow. Becoming friends with all your failures and frailties, and a lot of people and a lot of different teachers speak about this, about the shadow of self. Now, in order to speak about the shadow of self, we are speaking about discriminating between good and evil. Because somehow shadow, we equate it to the evil side, kind of the frailties, the failures, and light with the good side of things. And in this world and in the way that we interpret the world, although we have injunctions like judge ye not so that you are not judged, everything is based on the good ones and the bad ones. In the films like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or the Westerns or the, or the war films or the wars in reality and in politics and, everybody, whichever side you are in, considers you are in the good side because, Putin, for example, strongly believes not that he is bad, that the West is bad. He is good, of course. And you can apply the same to political parties or you name it. Now, what is this of good and evil? What is this of light and shadow? Is it real? Are polarities real? Or is it just a trick of perception? In order to go into depth into this matter, I'm going to use this satsang of Guru Raj from UK, 1979, satsang number 15, which the title of the satsang is The Crest Jewel of Discrimination. So I'm going to start by listening to the beginning of this satsang to start.
Here in England, it feels like coming home. Of course, some of you I met at Nottingham University, and those that I hadn't seen there. It is so lovely seeing you here. It's a joy to be shared, being together. And that joy stems from a source which is beyond man's mind. It stems from an infinite source to the infinity of what life is all about. I'm happy to be here with you. Now let us hear some of your earth-shattering philosophical questions.
I have another one for you.
Mm-hmm.
How does discernment differ from judging? We have been told not to judge, yet to me, discernment is practicing constant judgment. This is good, keep it. This is bad, discard it. It was Shankara's way, but the Zen way of acceptance of polarity, that is, acceptance of both pairs of opposites, seems more in keeping with Jesus' teachings and with present-day thought. Would you care to comment on this subject?
Good, I would like to, but could I ask you what you really mean by discernment?
Oh, discrimination, as Shankara described it in the crest jewel of
Yes.
wisdom.
Right, beautiful question. When it comes to a philosophic question, one has to be very careful about words because there are different shades of meaning, and because of these different shades of meaning, one could really speak of something entirely different. You know, the scriptures say, "And judge ye not, that ye be judged." While Shankara would say that have discrimination, let the intellect function in such a manner that you would be able to discern between good and bad, or draw that which could be most applicable to the situation. Now, in this process, there is a certain amount of judgment involved, because without knowing what the matter is all about, how could one discriminate? Are you getting me well over there? Good. Now, without knowing what issue there is at hand, how could one discriminate? So, although discrimination and judgment might seem paradoxical, they could be well married and could supplement each other. For the basis of discrimination is to be able to use the intellect at such a level, using the left hemisphere of the brain, which thinks, which evaluates, and when it fails in words, it would use symbols to interpret what it sees, what it hears. It would interpret the impulses brought to it by the five senses. But now, this is not the end of it all, because as we all know, the senses could be very deluding. You might see something and really not see anything. Shankara's most well-known analogy is that to see the snake in a rope and the rope in the snake. The rope is lying there in semi-darkness, and you pass it and you think it's a snake. All the time, it is just.
So we are going to, in this satsang tomorrow, I will try to get into depth of what is this that has to do with perception and discrimination, because they are both interrelated. I'm going to use a book that or readings from a book that I maybe suggest you. And it's about David Bohm and his interpretation of the quantum phenomena. I think I spoke in the previous video about David Bohm, but David Bohm was trying to find an explanation of why these particles that are entangled and that, defy the speed of light, for example, because if one changes, the other changes immediately, and this happens all the time in the quantum field, where everything is expressed in polarities, and something is a frequency until it is a particle, and when it is a particle, it has two aspects, the up quark and the down quark, and so on and so forth. And what seems to Bohm was saying is in reality one. The thing is that through perception, through the act of perceiving, we kind of see just a solidified or explicit aspect of it, and we see through a double system. In reality, to create a language, the manifestation could be considered like a language. To create a language, the most simple language, you can create it not with 20-something letters, but with two symbols, 0 and 1. With zeros and ones, you can create all sorts of realities in a computer, and taken to the extreme, you could simulate the whole universe. In other words, the combination of yin and yang, or the perception of two things, provides the instrument or the ability of perceiving all of the different things and creating all this universe that we have around us. Now, what Bohm was explaining, he was a very good friend of Krishnamurti, was that it is like if you have a fish bowl with a fish, imagine a rectangular fish bowl, but you cannot see the fish bowl, but through two images that you receive, and you have one image and another image, and that's the only thing you perceive, two images. One image of the front of the fish bowl, where you have the fish like this, and an image of the side of the fish bowl, where you can see the tail of the fish like this. So when you are perceiving the entity, the particle, you are perceiving two particles that somehow are entangled, because if one changes, the other changes. And you think there are two things, but in reality there is only one thing. And what Bohm was saying is that in reality all this universe is just one thing, that as in the very, very, very small aspect of it becomes two to perceive it, going up in all from the mini fundamental particle all the way to the composed particles that human beings can be, it replicates this perceptual quality that it has. So you are perceiving as two something which is one. In other words, light and darkness, or up and down, it's just the same thing, because it's just a perceptual thing that happens. Anyhow, we will continue with this satsang a little bit now, and tomorrow at 6 p.m. we will continue from where I am leaving it today. This is just a preview and something just to let you know that it will be great to have you all. Tomorrow we will start with a chant, a little chant. We will have here in Spain people in the ashram. We have quite a few mantra initiations, and we will be having a chant and a meditation with the people in the ashram here in Spain, joining us for this meditation. And if you are in Castile on Saturday at 12 p.m., we could be joining in the same meditation, of course. So thank you very much for listening, and I will leave you now with a few more sentences of this beautiful satsang.
So now Who is seeing what? Our minds are seeing the rope. But is the rope seeing you? And how does it judge you? You know the old story of I dreamt I was a butterfly. But wasn't perhaps the butterfly dreaming that I was a man? Huh? Good. Fine. That's an old Zen story, by the way. So, now, naturally, the rope cannot see you, so naturally, the rope hasn't got the power of discernment. It cannot discriminate who is passing me. Is it an animal? Is it man? Is it a woman? But the man can discriminate. Why? Because he has thinking ability. He has the ability of intellect. He has the ability of analysis. And because of this ability, he could discriminate between ordinary things in life, for that matter, and not necessarily high philosophical concepts. But now here, Shankara saw the rope as a snake. Why did he see the rope as a snake in the first place? This proves one thing only, that he was looking at the rope with a conditioned mind. His mind, because of association of ideas, would equate or see the rope as a snake. Perhaps the dominant idea in his mind, perhaps the situation would have been such that there would be snakes around those forests and jungles where Shankara roamed around. So automatically his mind associated the rope with a snake. So it was a conditioned reflex of the mind, of the intellect, whereby he saw this and he saw it wrongly. So therefore a patterned mind, a conditioned mind, would be a biased mind. So now, if the mind is biased in any way whatsoever, then it has no right to judge. So here is the opposition which we will try and bring together just now. Fine.
It was a hard life, this, digging the ground. Who cares to know how parched it was? My back is broken, carrying the water pails. I am old. The trees so young, bearing blossoms. I console myself in the beauty of the flowers. They frolic in the wind, but do not know that the gardener with love and tender care nurtured them, now sits in the corner, forgotten and forlorn. I watch the sun and wind and clouds floating by. Every father craves a little smile for his labor. I dug with bare hands, planting each seed lovingly. They do not care. I sit in the corner, forgotten and forlorn. Can't you remember when you were a seedling? The rains never came, and all the prayers were in vain. I cried and cried, so tears would come and feed you. Now you are strong and couldn't care for the gardener, sitting in the corner forgotten and forlorn. Hands were covered with manure and stink filled my clothes, but you had to grow. I know the play of life is work. Discarded am I as a rotten apple is. Now I sit with broken bones, forgotten and forlorn.
Ooh.